So, with the release of The Long Halloween Part 2, there are now technically over 30 animated Batman films. However, I am about to set some ground rules for this video. So I am including every animated Batman movie I've seen, which is all but 3. I have not seen the Batman Unlimited films. Those are purely intended for kids. They do not appeal for me. They look like a toy commercial. So I haven't seen them. I probably never will watch them. For anyone that wants to complain about that, feel free to do so. The video is titled what it is because of how YouTube's algorithm works. I can pretty much guarantee you that those films would be at the bottom or very close to the bottom anyway, so it wouldn't be that fun for me to include them. Also, I'm including the two-parters as one film because they are one cohesive story. They take place back to back. So The Dark Knight Returns Parts 1 and 2 are one entry on the list. Same with The Long Halloween Parts 1 and 2. I am also including the Superman/Batman films because Batman is a major character in those movies, and him and Superman are the lead characters alone. It's not a Justice League movie, it's not a team-up, it's just a team-up between those two, so I include that as both a Superman and Batman movie. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the ranking.
Where can I find your BFF Poison Ivy?
I can help you find her, but you're gonna put in a good word for me with the parole boy.
No. Perhaps you'll kill me. Perhaps I'll kill you. You know that, don't you?
Remember, you are stronger together than apart.
We're all here because each of us, in our own way, fights with the hope of a better tomorrow.
What a beautiful young woman does in her free time. Her costume links her to me. Why? What does she have planned?
Assassins plan to take over Ra's organization.
Ra's al Ghul has been retired. You may call me Deathstroke.
He wanted to create the perfect soldier. I was the strongest of them all.
It's a double cross. All signs pointing to
Two-Face.
12 years, and the ache is still fresh. A raw, angry nerve.
The events of the past months reach as high as Superman and as low as the Joker. All were set into motion by Hush.
Batman! Whoa!
You're darn right, whoa.
Wait, does Batman live in Bruce Wayne's basement?
No, Bruce Wayne lives in Batman's attic.
take him down. We need answers.
You're welcome to try.
Think fast.
He moves through the shadows. He watches during the night. And this winter, he is out for blood.
Welcome to the Court of Owls. You'll lead us in a war on Gotham. We've got to stop him.
The Demon King! Lord Joker!
Where am I?
Joker stole a dirty bomb hidden somewhere in Gotham.
Tell me where it is.
Now, it's time for a very big bang!
And the Ho-Daddies!
Holy, unholy alliance! Our greatest foes have reunited. Ball to the metal!
Excuse me, turn left. Left, got it. He doesn't know directions.
Duh, he's a dog.
Johnny Vitti was murdered tonight. Falcone crime family has to be taken down.
There's only room for one homicidal maniac in this town.
If I'm not back in time, go without me.
What? Wait! Look out!
I mean to rid Gotham of the Ripper. He's a skilled hunter, and he's just getting started.
I made you lose control. All the people I've murdered. It ends tonight.
His newest and most menacing villain.
Your angel of death awaits.
The Phantasm.
I want you. You'll have to stand alone.
You're out of your league. I know every trick the original Batman and Robin knew at their peak.
to face a vengeful menace from the past.
So here we are again. I'm going to slowly build this tier list from the ranking you just saw. So if you just wanted the ranking, you have the ranking. I'm just going to talk briefly about each film. So Batman and Harley Quinn, on countless occasions I've said this movie is extremely disappointing. It is very bad. The humor, none of it hits with me. Fart jokes, all that, not my thing. As a continuation or return to Batman the Animated Series, very, very disappointing, and as many of you know, I adore Batman the Animated Series, so that's why it deserves its spot at number 27, in last place. Batman Gotham Knight. This was supposed to loosely connect to the Nolan universe, the Dark Knight trilogy. It does not. It doesn't feel like it connects to those movies in the slightest. And there's 6 stories. None of them I remember being that interesting. I've never had the urge to revisit this film. Batman the Killing Joke. I think you have a good movie in the second half, but the first half of this movie is just so atrociously bad. And Batman and Batgirl should just never really be a thing, in my opinion. That they could have done a much better thing with the first half of that movie. Soul the Dragon. This was a very weird film, and I just couldn't really get into it. You know, lizard people, the Cult of Cobra. Cult of Cobra was actually like my least favorite thing in Batman Beyond also, so maybe it's something a lot of people are into, and it's just not for me. Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. So this is a problem I have with many things that include Darkseid. Darkseid is an extremely interesting character. I think he's so cool. He's one of my favorite DC villains, but I think his usage in this is somewhat disappointing. So that's the main reason for this movie being this low. Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. So this movie is very hit and miss with me. There's some things I like and some things I really do not like. The mystery at times can be pretty good, kind of compelling, but eventually it all kind of becomes clear. You know, if you're looking for who Batwoman actually is, you can figure it out pretty easy. Son of Batman. Now, I love Deathstroke. Deathstroke is my favorite part of this movie. I like the usage of other Batman villains, less known Batman villains, like Killer Croc and Man-Bat, especially Man-Bat being used. I really enjoyed that. This sets up the whole arc with the first 3 Batman movies in this universe, really, with Talia, and then it sets up Deathstroke and Damian's feud. So, yeah, I enjoy the movie. There's just parts that I'm not a huge fan of, and I just prefer the others that are above it much more. Now, number 20 was Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. Something I think this movie does better than Apocalypse does is showcase the dynamic between Batman and Superman. I also just enjoy having only Batman and Superman more than I do, like in Apocalypse they include Supergirl and Wonder Woman. I enjoy just Batman and Superman more just to see that dynamic really flesh out, because it's one of the best dynamics and friendships in all of comics, in my opinion. Lex Luthor is... The whole presidential thing with Lex was big in the 2000s, apparently, the mid to late 2000s, because it was a whole thing in Justice League Unlimited. It's a thing in this. The giant robot at the end of this movie was just pretty weird to me, so this movie is entertaining enough, but it drags at times, so yeah. Batman Bad Blood. So, I think the biggest sin for this, for me, is that Batman's barely in it. The whole plot is that Batman goes missing, Batman's brainwashed. I'm not a huge fan of brainwashed stories, but I do enjoy seeing Dick as Batman. I really wish they would make a Black Mirror movie, because Dick as Batman is a very interesting concept, and if anyone is going to follow up Bruce as Batman, it should be Dick. Batman vs. Two-Face. This one's always going to be kind of close to me because I love Adam West, and this was his last time playing Batman, of course, before he passed, but I do not think this even comes close to comparing to Return of the Caped Crusaders. I think that's a much more superior film. It was interesting to see the 66 take on Two-Face finally. Batman Year One. I'm not trying to trash these movies, so that's why I'm not trying to say too much negative about any of these. Batman Year One. This is a movie I wish I enjoyed more, but there's just too much of it that drags and goes too slow for me. Hearing Ben McKenzie's voice as Batman is very, very odd now that he's played Gordon in Gotham, because I just hear Commissioner Gordon, so it's like Gordon has the Batman suit on. But the action scenes, the whole setup of this movie I enjoy, but I don't know, maybe I would have... I also don't really enjoy Catwoman being a prostitute, but maybe I would have enjoyed this more if there was a big, flashy Batman villain. You don't always need that, but I don't know. I like Batman's Rogues Gallery. Batman Hush. So, I don't know why this isn't lower, honestly. I think it redeems itself in many ways, because I like the usage of most characters in this movie, except for the two biggest characters. That being Hush and the Riddler, them being one and the same, of course, in this movie, which doesn't bother me as much as the just straight disrespect to the Riddler as a character, calling him a C-list villain and everything. And you can say that's to get under the Riddler's skin, which it is at the end confrontation between Batman and the Riddler, but when it's just Batman and Nightwing and the Batcave alone and they call him the C-lister, that really irks me, because Riddler is my second favorite Batman villain behind Joker. So yeah, it should probably be lower, but somehow it isn't. The Lego Batman movie, it's a very fun movie. I know a lot of people really enjoyed the usage of other big WB villains like the Eye of Zoran and Voldemort and King Kong, things like that, which, yes, it was very cool to see, but I do wish that the third act and the first act were kind of reversed. But what I'm saying is, I wish the third act of this movie was just a showdown between Batman and his rogues. Not Batman versus the Joker with all these other villains that are not part of Batman's world. It was still cool to see, and this movie was fun. Batman and Joker's dynamic is fantastic, and it really goes into the romanticized aspect of the relationship, which was interesting. The usage of the Phantom Zone and the Justice League. It's a funny movie. Batman versus TMNT. So the Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fight was great. The Batman versus Shredder fight was great. The fight scenes in this movie are really, really good. The only thing I'm not a fan of, and I know it was just paying respect to source material and doing what the comic did, turning the Batman villains into animals, mutated animals, which I'm just not a fan of. The Batman versus Dracula. The Batman versus Dracula is a very interesting concept, and I'm talking about the characters, not this movie, because the characters are the concept. But anyway, yeah, Batman versus Dracula, that's always been an interesting concept, because they're both night owls. They're both lords of the night, knights of the night in their own way. So it's just a matchup that makes sense, and I like the usage of the Joker and Penguin in this movie. I think it's a really weird contrast compared to the Batman animated show from 2004, because although the show does have dark elements at times, for the most part it's a pretty lighthearted, get along with kids show. And then in this movie there's blood and everything, which, hey, if you're gonna make a movie, you might as well make it different enough from the show so people are getting their money's worth, so I respect that. Batman versus Robin. This is the best of the past Batman movies from the previous universe, without a doubt. The Court of Owls have never been that interesting to me, but this is probably the thing I've enjoyed them the most in. It's an interesting concept, but I don't know, the whole being connected to Gotham from the beginning of time thing, I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I don't know, the League of Shadows are kind of similar, but I just think they're way cooler. Contrary to me not being a huge fan of the Court of Owls, I did think Talon was a compelling villain and a good villain choice for this movie and the story they were telling with this movie. Batman Ninja, this is the one that surprises me the most with it being this high. I'm not personally an anime fan, so I really did not think I would enjoy this movie, and I initially started this movie and just stopped because I was like, I'm not gonna like this because I can't get into it because it's anime. But then I gave it a real shot, and I really, really enjoyed this. I thought the voice cast did great for the dubbed version of this movie. Most dubbed anime I hear is not very good, but I think this was good enough. The dub didn't bother me. And it's really interesting that Gorilla Grodd is the main villain outside of Joker in this film, which I appreciated. I appreciate when you use kind of lesser known villains. Now getting into the top 10, we have Batman: Assault on Arkham. I really enjoyed this movie. I think Deadshot is amazing in this movie. The final showdown between Deadshot and the Joker, I love the Joker in this film. Troy Baker does an excellent job, as he always does as the character. I think if you don't have Mark Hamill, if you can't snag Joe DiMaggio, which I don't know why they don't bring Joe DiMaggio back, Troy Baker is the next best option in my opinion. Troy Baker is a phenomenal voice actor. He can play Batman or Joker. I don't care if he plays either one. He's good. But I like the dynamic between the Suicide Squad. I like Batman's incorporation into this film. It's a Suicide Squad movie, but I think it's a Batman movie enough to warrant the title, Batman: Assault on Arkham. As a connection to the Arkham games, I don't really think this works. I think that was just for promotion, because I don't see how this really ties into the Arkham games. I'm not sure when this was set, but of course at the end they gotta release all the villains from Arkham, and they have the Arkham games designed. Not a big fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of final mayhem boss fight wasting a bunch of villains. But overall, obviously I enjoyed the movie. Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders. So, I can't really say I'm the biggest Batman 66 fan, but I am a Batman 66 fan. I respect the hell out of Batman 66. I respect all of its camp. Adam West is really close to my heart, being the first major on-screen Batman we had, and really setting the way for the Batmans to come. So as a return to this world, the 66 world, I think Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders does a fantastic job. It has the original 4 villains from the Batman 66 movie, which was a smart choice. And I think the voice actors do very good, because obviously most of them are replacements for voice actors that have since passed, and I think most do good enough with what they have to work with. Scooby-Doo, Batman, The Brave and the Bold. I really enjoyed this movie. Scooby-Doo and Batman, those two things were my childhood, and this movie is much smarter than maybe someone would initially expect. If you've ever seen Batman and the Brave and the Bold, go into this movie expecting what you saw in the show in this movie. It's camp, but it's smart, and it works. They pay respect to the characters. It's silly, but it's very much Batman. It's similar to Batman 66 in that aspect. So I'm not going to spoil what happens in this movie. If you have not seen it, I recommend you go watch it. I really enjoyed the usage of both Batman's and Scooby-Doo's world, Batman's villains, and of course Batman the Brave and the Bold being a show that utilized other DC characters. So does this movie, like Aquaman, The Question, Black Canary, Martian Manhunter, so on and so forth. Now the most recent animated Batman film, Batman: The Long Halloween. So I have reviews up on the channel, so you guys can just go check those out. But overall, I did enjoy these two films. I think they work well together. I really love Batman and Catwoman's dynamic. The Joker in part 1 was phenomenal. I like Harvey's descent into madness and becoming Two-Face. The mystery aspect of it all, Batman learning to become a detective. So go check out my reviews if you want to hear a bit more about what I enjoy about these films. And right outside of the top 5 is Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. Now, the DCAU, the DC Animated Universe, that started with Batman the Animated Series going through Justice League Unlimited, that lasted 14 years, obviously a big part of my childhood. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I still enjoy all those shows, because they aren't just kid shows, they tell deep stories, and this is no different. Mr. Freeze is a very deep and compelling character. I think it's freaking awesome that he has pet polar bears. That was an awesome thing to add for this movie. And I don't know, this is one of those movies that feels like it just doesn't slow down, because the runtime for this is very short. It's only 67 minutes, so it's just over an hour. And it doesn't feel like it slows down. It's paced very well, from the storytelling to the action scenes. Now getting into the top 5, we have Batman: Gotham by Gaslight. This is a movie unlike Hush that took its source material, changed the identity of who the main villain was, this being the Ripper opposed to Hush, and it works. It maybe even benefits the story. I won't spoil who the Ripper is for anyone that for some reason has not seen this movie yet but is watching this video, because you should go watch it. If you haven't been spoiled on the internet somehow, you should definitely go watch it. Batman and Selina are fantastic in this movie. Movies like this I've never been the biggest Batman Catwoman fan, but it's movies like this and movies like The Long Halloween that make me really appreciate that dynamic more, and I grow to appreciate that relationship more, and I just want to see Bruce happy with her, man. But yeah, of course, this is an Elseworld story. It's a very interesting take on Batman. It's different than what you usually get with Batman, so for that, it's worth the watch alone. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. This is the best comic to film adaptation in DC animation so far. This and The Long Halloween are really the only great ones, in my opinion, but nothing compares to The Dark Knight Returns when it comes from adapting a comic to an animated film. You have the Mutant Leader, which is probably one of the most iconic Batman villains that isn't your typical everyday Batman villain. He's not the Joker, he's not Two-Face, he's not the Riddler, but he's a very interesting character, and you just want to see Batman punch this dude into the ground. And Batman and Joker's whole thing in Part 2. Part 2 is much like what I said about Sub-Zero, and this goes for many of these films. It just doesn't slow down. Like, it does not give you a moment to breathe. You're into this movie and you're into what's happening. Batman has a showdown with Joker and a showdown with Superman, all in Part 2. And I love how this film, both Parts 1 and Part 2, showcase the Batman-Joker dynamic. How Joker was in this catatonic state until Batman returns to action, and then he's all of a sudden out, because the Joker, of course, needs Batman, which is explored in pretty much anything those two are in together. Speaking of Batman and the Joker, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Phenomenal movie. The Phantasm is one of the best original characters from the DC animated universe that Batman the Animated Series created. And to me, this movie is kinda just like a better Year One, because you get flashbacks of when Batman was becoming Batman, him struggling with whether he should become Batman or not. It's a very deep, emotional film. The utilization of the Joker is brilliant. Beautiful animation, a lot of great storytelling done with that animation. The action scenes are great, the personal relationships are great. Everything about this movie is fantastic. And I just noticed I had number 1 and 2 flipped. Sorry about that, but now it's correct. My number 2 is probably most people's number 1, Batman Under the Red Hood. I definitely think this is the most popular animated, not just Batman film, but DC film, probably animated superhero film, in most people's opinion, and I respect that. This movie is perfect. There's not one single thing I can point out that is wrong with this movie. It's brilliant, it's emotional. Batman and Jason Todd's dynamic is very deep, and you can feel for Bruce. You can feel for Jason. And that makes Batman and Nightwing's relationship in this movie that much more deeper. Red Hood is brutal, and the moment that Batman figures out who the Red Hood is just amazing. And number 1, Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. I don't know if this movie will ever be topped for me when it comes to these animated films, because I have such a connection to this movie, so much nostalgia with this movie, and it's just a fantastic movie. It's much like I've stated about the past few. Very emotional, it's very tense, you want to know how the Joker is back. You know it's actually the Joker, but how is he back after all these years? How did he die? If you haven't seen this movie, I highly, highly recommend you go watch it. This movie was such a huge part of my childhood, and it's still a huge part of my life. It is that damn good. Mark Hamill's back as the Joker, and he's much more creepy and sinister. This older Joker in a younger body that has somehow come back from the dead. It's like Batman's biggest nightmare has just become a reality. And Terry stating that he knows about all other enemies that Bruce had, but he never knew about the Joker. That alone tells you that the Joker has caused Batman the most trouble and the most pain throughout his time of crime fighting. And the Joker gang in this is amazing as well. This is the best Joker gang without a doubt. They are their own characters, which I really enjoy. Usually goons are goons. These guys aren't just goons, they have character. I love Ghoul, I love his design. He's a scarecrow looking dude with Joker face paint, and he carries a pumpkin around. That's freaking awesome. Voiced by Michael Rosenbaum. Bonk, voiced by Henry Rollins. The voice cast in this movie is insane. The DD twins. Just that whole Joker gang is perfect. The Joker in this movie, perfect. The flashback scene is one of the best scenes, probably the best scene I've ever seen in a movie ever. Not just these animated movies. Just in a movie, period. At least a superhero movie. It's a very deep, emotional, tragic scene. You find out how the Joker did die. So yeah, go watch this movie if you haven't. You should watch most of these movies if you haven't. Probably about the top 15 or so you should definitely check out. I would recommend them all. So, guys, let me know what you think about the video down in the comments below. Let me know your ranking. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.